Hold it down, leader. Oh, okay, there's the.
Hello, James. Hello, everyone. This is I Love Myself Fix podcast coming into grace, hosted by mother and son duo, Courtney and Osh, at Courtney's Fix and at Osh's Fix. And today we're here with James Coles. How are you today, James?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. How have you been over these past few days?
Past few days, I've been pretty well. Just last week, I finally graduated from Morehouse College, so that was significant. I'd say.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was a blessing. It's been a very long journey, but it's been filled with very great things. But all in all, the past few days have been well. I'm at my cousin's right now, just kind of taking a break from everything. Just trying to get everything planned out, figure things out for this summer / upcoming year. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on graduating.
Appreciate you, brother. Like I said, it's been a long journey. And it's been an interesting senior year.
Yeah.
Yes, bro. Yeah. My whole senior year has been altered because of a pandemic / global crisis. But, I keep the faith. Got
it.
We are not going to cut that off. I'm laughing. Did you leave something on the stove?
No, the house is just burning down.
Keep going. This is pandemic life, man.
No, the pandemic edition. No, literally. Like, I'm back home with my mom every day. And it's just us two. Because around, like, January, my grandma, because it used to be us three, but my grandma, she passed away. So, like, literally, no, you're fine. I appreciate that, though. But it's just me and my mom. So, like, every day we're trying to find ways to coexist. It's interesting. So
trying not to kill each other.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
We've been my running line is I sure am glad that we like each other.
That's about how my mom feels as well.
Yeah.
Because she just started going back to work like maybe a week ago. So literally we were just both at the house. We would like during like dinner time we'd watch like movies or something together, something cool, or just we're way more open. I will say that the mother-son conversations have shifted to way bigger. So
that's wonderful.
That's beautiful. That's the way that we work.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, and we have as a family spent a lot of time together. Like some families don't. We've spent a lot of time together. But this just made it like,
even
like
more compressed.
Right.
Like, no, I was about to say. Even more compressed. Yes. It's like we're closer, but who knew you could get even closer? We're intertwined at this point.
Exactly.
Correct. What are you studying, or what are not, because you graduated? So what, you're looking for jobs now? What kind of stuff are you looking for?
So my major is business finance with a minor in criminal justice. My long-term aspiration with that is to start a long contract law firm. So in the upcoming spring, I plan to attend law school. I don't necessarily know where yet. In May, I retook the LSAT for a second time. So I'm supposed to be hearing what my score was in like the next few days, to be honest. But before that, I'm obviously going to be doing something this summer. So I actually had an interview this morning. These are my notes. Again, these are my notes. And it was for this company called FFA, which stands for Florida Financial Advisors, where I basically serve as like a financial analyst / consultant, helping clients with like maintaining financial stability or improving their financial stability. And I'd be located in Tampa, another place I applied to, Frito-Lay. And I just heard back from them like yesterday. I'm supposed to be having an interview with them like sometime this weekend. And then I also applied with Northwestern Mutual. They're taking a little bit longer as far as letting me know what the next step is, but they said I would be based in either Maryland or Illinois. So it sounds like I have a few options. I just would like to finalize some of these options a little bit more to help me feel a little bit comfortable in my own, career, I guess. Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much happening. So
Right.
literally.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, James, I know you very well. I know you to be a very jovial and kind-hearted person. But would you tell our audience, some qualities or characteristics about yourself that you would want others to know?
I would say that I try to be very genuine in everything that I do. I feel like that's very important. I feel like a lot of times people put on a really big facade when they do different things, and it shows in whatever project, task, or action they may be doing. And sometimes you can give that feeling to that other person, and they can feel where it's not genuine. And they can feel a certain way about that, whether it be positive or negative. It might not necessarily help in the overall result. So I try to be genuine in my relationships with people, genuine in tasks that I do, because I feel like even if it's not sufficient, that I put all my effort into it. One of the biggest things with me is like I'm all about value. I feel like that's one of the biggest concepts in the world, valuing something. I even said it. My mom kind of flipped out when I said this. She not flipped out, but she was a little bit surprised that I said this. But I told her I'd rather be valued than loved, because I feel like to a certain extent you can lose value in someone when you're in love with them, but you can only gain value in someone by adding love. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's just kind of how I feel about those things. I also think that I'm a very persistent person. I'm not really one to just give up on anything that I do, even if it's a little bit harder. I'm kind of learning to ask more for help in different things.
Yeah.
That's
Wonderful.
kind of a process.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like very prideful. It's just like sometimes I feel like I can do a task on my own. And yeah, I don't really want to necessarily burden anyone with what I'm doing. Because it's not really. Yes, ma'am. So it's an everyday thing, I guess. And then I just say I'm a team player. I'm really all about like my foundation. I love my foundation. I have a pretty solid foundation. I have my mom used to always say it takes a village to raise a man, and I try to live by that, maintain a village, whether that be through my friends, family, associates, all that.
Understood.
Okay.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Cool. Are you leaving it up to me? I get to ask?
Yeah.
Okay. I can already see some of them, but if you were, this is going to be, Ash is going to pinch me, I know, when this is over after this comes out of my mouth. He's already ready.
Too late.
If you had to like stand out on the side of the street with a sign, and then you had like a pot of gold, and you had to say, what were your top 4 gifts that you would want like to shine out of you like the light, what would they be?
Gifts that I personally possess of myself?
Yeah.
I think my voice. I think that I don't know, the way that my voice is, I have like a very distinct voice, I'd say. Sometimes I do like really weird things. Like I'll just kind of just like play with my voice. Like I'll talk in different ways or this way or things like that. Like, just cause it makes me feel like better about my personality, better about who I am. I feel more comfortable. I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, don't really feel comfortable or secure in who they are. So it kind of helps.
Mhm.
I'd say that's one thing. Another, I think my story. I have a very interesting story, and I feel like, I mean, I know that everyone does, but I feel like some are more open about telling their stories than others. I have necessarily no problem with it. I say it all the time. I'm like an open, closed book, you know? So like, I only tell as much as you'd like to know.
Exactly. You have to
So
open the door.
exactly. But I feel like that kind of helps me to understand another person as well.
Mhm.
Let's see. 2 pots of gold. Okay. Third. I say my passion. I'm very passionate. I don't people like to say that, you know, I can be sensitive. Not that that's a good or bad thing, but I always come back with like, no, I'm not really that sensitive. I'm more emotional because I'm very passionate in a lot of the things that I do, a lot of the things that I say. I don't really like to waste words. So yeah, I try to be passionate in literally everything that I do.
Yeah.
Um, no passion, you're not really gonna appreciate what you're even doing. And that goes back to being genuine about things that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, you know, and you have to gauge when somebody wants to hear it, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can
Talking
be
to a smiling
open.
ear. Yep. No point.
Sometimes I start sharing and I watch the face go. I
Blank.
was like,
Nah,
oh,
blank. I'm like, okay, they're not registered anymore. Gotcha.
Right.
like, oh, I think I better move along.
No, literally. Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything that you would love the world to know?
About myself?
Or just about where you are or
Or how
what's
you feel.
important, or it doesn't matter. You could sit there and say, you know, everybody should eat blueberry pie every day. That could be, you know,
Your
your
message.
gift to the world.
Um, what do I want the world to know? Uh, I want the world to not be so frustrated by really like surface level things. I don't I come from a religious background, you know, like Christian family. Um, but I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of finding this a little hard to answer because it's just like there's so many things I want the world to know. But it's like at one point I used to want to be the president. But I kind of shifted away from that feeling, mainly because after Obama was in there, that kind of gave me a different aspect of how things go. I even watched this documentary called Becoming with Michelle Obama,
Oh yeah.
and she was just kind of talking about like his whole presidency and how like, you know, African Americans helped to get him in, but like once he was in, you know, I hear it even now, a lot of people kind of like frown upon Obama, saying that he wasn't really helping them. But at the same time, she was saying once he got in, the help or assistance that he had from African Americans just wasn't what it was because they were kind of content with him being in office. But, you know, the way that our government works, it doesn't stop with like just the president. You know,
Right.
there's branches that, you know, make bills, vote on bills that he still needs assistance with. Um, and there's only so much that he can do as president. So that kind of shifted me away from that. And there's a lot going on in politics in general. But it's just like when I say like service level things, like I feel like there's just some things that we should not be having to deal with. Like race should not be an issue at all. Like I feel like as advanced as we are as uh, a nation, like we should have been resolved this a long time ago, whether that be through reparations, whether that be through some type of bill written to make equality for everyone, which it already kind of is, but it doesn't really apply because, you know, some
Right.
people are on their own agendas that's a whole nother thing as well. But it's just like, we should just love, like, I love life. I'm a very optimistic, like, like, it'll get better. Well, it'll always get better. There's always hope at the end of the, end of the lining. And I'm just like, if more people had that kind of perspective aspect on things, I feel like we'd be in a better position, not only as a nation, but as like a world altogether. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really, like, I want the world to, like, appreciate someone's story. Don't, like, frown upon it. Don't, like, discredit it. Don't, like, not value it. Like, just value someone's story. That's where it all starts. I took a world literature class this semester, and we really were honing in on the power of a story. Because she was talking about this lady who was giving, like, a TED Talk, who was basically saying how, like, she's from Africa, and she used to, like, receive books that she would read, but she always found it hard to relate to the books because the books featured, like, her white counterparts. Excuse me. And so it was kind of hard for her to relate or, like, feel for the book, the story, because, like, it just wasn't her. And she talked about when she came to America and she started attending college, and she said how she had a Caucasian roommate, and how, like, the roommate kind of would, kind of ask her different questions about, like, her background, and how it was living in Africa, almost to the certain extent where she's frowning upon that. And she even talked about, like, when she was back in Africa, she lived in a pretty solid household, but, people around her were kind of struggling, lower class people. So she kind of frowned upon them. And so for Caucasian woman to do that to her, she saw kind of how that made her feel. And it just made her want to know more of her own story, which inspired her to kind of read more on whether that be, like, African-American literature, stuff like that, and kind of changed her whole perspective on like, what a story really means. So I think valuing a story is essential.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it can do so much for so many people, touch so many lives. Such a wonderful tool.
My point exactly.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to share with the world. Thank you.
No problem.
Very much.
Excuse me for leaving. We had a puppy go sideways.
No, you're good. I just went on the whole spiel just now.
No. I heard most of it, but I know that was weird to walk away. But there was some puppy fight happening.
Yeah.
I understand.
And I was like, I didn't know what they were going to take out. And so you turn around and something's gone.
And they already let it loose. I'm already know.
So please excuse me. I would never walk out on a conversation.
No, you're fine. I understand. You're holding it down. You're holding
This
it
guy
down.
come back, they're like, oh, that mom seemed so considerate. And then she walked out on the story.
Right.
No, it's okay. Ash is still there, so I'm like, we're good.
About the importance of a story.
No, we're still good.
No. I mean, and, but one of the things that you said in that, which is huge, is also, I think sometimes we overestimate what our expectations of what people should understand. And I really think that is a key issue. And that, I have traveled a good part of this world. And from that, and I always encourage travel. I taught even, I taught culinary arts for like 12 years. And I would tell my students, some of the students never left the city or the next city. And then, they're like, I want to be this chef and I want to do all that. And I was like, well, how can you begin to teach other cuisines and you don't go eat the cuisine and you don't go learn anything about the people and you don't leave your city? And so, I would challenge them all the time and I say, please don't go to the, movies today. Please drive 10 miles, drive 20 miles. And I just, over the course of time, just just drive a little bit more. And I know this sounds really, and even I've driven around the country probably 4 times, twice by myself. And I have learned so much about people just from where they are, but from what they haven't seen. And so there's always this expectation, I believe, where people assume, and sometimes people are like, well, they're just ignorant. That's not true. I mean, it is in the core form of the definition of the
Yes,
wording,
ma'am.
but there's this thing in which when you begin to travel more and then you start to see what people's circles are, then the idea that they should understand what you're saying,
It's kind of
no,
far out.
no, they shouldn't.
Right.
They're barely understanding what's going on in their own community.
In their own situation.
Correct, for it to then begin to amplify out on such a large level. And so when I was, hearing that story, it's, there are people who live in Michigan who never make it, to Ohio.
Right.
They just never make it.
Stay, settle.
And I think we really do overestimate what someone's perception should be for them to understand what's happening for us. And even in you, because where are you from?
Born in Kentucky, from East Lansing, Michigan.
Okay. So you've already gone from Kentucky to Lansing, Michigan. I'm sure somewhere you've had some internships during this time. So you've gone somewhere else, and then now you've been in the South. So you've been all these. So Kentucky is very different from Michigan.
Oh, for sure. No, for sure.
Right. Which is very different from Atlanta.
Yes, ma'am.
But then as you're talking to some people who maybe have never left Atlanta, they don't even let's just take it on a core fact, just sit there and say how people react when it gets cold and how people are not warm and, they're not warm to other people and they're trying to hide from the wind and then they're not sure, if they have enough heat. Like there's so many base things that begin to happen in humans that affect such larger issues that I think even come into play. So that was enough of my little speech.
So one of the biggest things that I heard you say was about expectations.
Right.
So one thing for me is, this is another thing that has my mom like, wait, what? Is I say all the time, I don't expect anything of anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Not even my family, not my mom, not my friends. And the reason I do that is because I've been in situations where I've expected something and I was unfortunately let down. And maybe it was because I did something or maybe they did something, but I still put too much into, or too many assumptions that I had prior to even getting into that situation. So it's given me perspective, and it's also helped me because like when someone does something for me, like let's say my mom does something for me that I did not expect, I put value on that and I value her because of that, and I grow more appreciation for my mom through that. But it's not, I never expected that, it just kind of happened. So I definitely agree with that one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And what's beautiful about your positioning that I can see is that for you, you're saying you don't have any expectations, but what I also see from your spirit is, but you still have hope. There are a lot of people who say they have no expectations. What they're really saying is, I have no hope. And those are two different issues.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and that's beautiful to see out of you, because those are two different. One is, I'm contained and I'm good in my containment and responsibility, but the world can still do everything that the world can do.
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah, so that's beautiful. I love that. That was great.
Yeah. Well, James, do you have questions for us?
How did this happen? Like, how did this become a thing? I didn't even do this with my mom.
Do you want to start?
Well, why don't you go? I could talk all day.
I wanted to do this with my mom. I mean, we decided to do this together, but my reason for doing this is because I wanted to show that men like you and I exist, because there are many people out there who like to discredit whether or not we exist and try and ignore the fact that we may or we may not be there, or we're not like exactly like this, or there's only two of us, or there's only a few of us. And no, there's a very large portion of African American males, women, people who have a level of consciousness and a care for others that people just don't see. And I feel that in showcasing people like you and I, people will better be able to understand who we are as a people. And then hopefully will want to value us. So that's the overall goal. Hopefully.
One of the biggest things that, oh, sorry to cut you off.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say one of the things that I hate the most, and I don't really have hate for anything, but I hate when someone generalizes somebody or a person or people or anything like that, because no one is exactly the same as the next person. There may be similar traits that a group or person may have with another person, but they're not exactly the same. They all bring something, unique or different to the table. So I definitely understand that, because we do live in a generation where I literally see it all the time. Like I went on a spiel about this yesterday, where like African American women feel like Black men just don't like value them or appreciate them, and it's kind of like upsetting, because on one hand I see what they're saying, so it's like I can't be like, no, that's not true at all. But at the same time, it's like, it's not true, because like my mom instilled that in me, so I know the value of an African American woman, and I have no problem with showing you that I appreciate y'all. Like, I love y'all to the T. Like, y'all are thebomb.com, and everyone knows it.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of like just frustrating, because like it's like I'm stuck in the middle of it both.
Exactly.
It's like I'm like in the middle pile. So yeah. So I definitely understand what you're saying, and it's good that you're doing this, because you got to show documentary of like it actually being there.
Right. Some people just don't take your word for it.
Man.
Well, for me, mine's a little different. Mine is, I'm just all about love and all about hugs, and I just love meeting new people. And we actually started this last fall, so we have some other interviews, and then we were building some other parts of the business, and we hadn't launched these yet. And then I was like, oh, I think it's time. Like, I think this is the time to do it. But
since last fall, that's a pretty abundant amount of content. So
well, it was, and then we stopped, and we started doing some other stuff. Like, we've written all these meditations, and but for me, what's most important about this is the ability for people, especially, to feel love come across on camera or when someone's interviewing them, and for them to be able to know that somebody sees them. And so for me, I love to see people. That's why, I just want to get paid to see people, because there's nothing.
I approve of that one.
There's nothing to me more incredible in the world, is that. And so, I love looking in people's eyes. I love hearing what they're trying to not say or to say. And I think people just oftentimes want an opportunity to just say it. And, and that's what I'm hoping these will do for even the people that we interview, that when the interview is over, that's just maybe one more level of permission for them to do it. That's what it does for me.
So there's this movie on Netflix. It's called The Black Godfather.
Oh,
It's Clarence Avon, when you said that you want to get paid to see people, that's like kind of what I would like to do. I would like to be like Clarence Avon. He literally got paid for connecting individuals, and they made beautiful things out of the relationships. And he made a whole career. He had his own label. Like, he was doing it big. So I definitely agree with that one, because there is value in putting another person in value. It gives you perspective. I really try to see from other people's perspective in all that I do, because it helps me better understand them as we're like conversing.
I mean, that's all you can really ask from them. So.
Yeah. And the payment comes in all kinds of forms, right?
It doesn't have to be monetary. Look.
Right. No. I mean, and that's the thing. The payment, you know, after almost every one of these interviews, I walk away feeling hugged, and I generally cry, and I love it, and it's beautiful. You know,
that's the mom. That's the mom in you. That's all that is.
Right? That's not his mom. That's just, you know.
Now and then I get a little teared up.
Oh, okay, look, let me shed some thug tears after this too, then.
All right,
all right, you got? No, you got anything? All right.
It's been wonderful having you, James.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. I really do appreciate y'all. Look, I feel bad now because I didn't realize that's who this was, and now that I know, I'm just filled with happiness right now.
Oh,
so,
good.
Thank you.
All right, James, I would like you to do one thing before you leave. If you could look at your camera and say, I love myself.
I love myself all the way.
We love you too, James.
We love you too.
Love you, man. Love y'all.
All right. Thank you so much for watching Coming Into Grace, knowing who we are and loving ourselves for it. Be well out there.
Amen.
Bye, James.
Much love. Bye.
Much love.